Hey guys, so we're going to be doing something a little bit different tonight. This is going to be a deck review, or more so really a video where I just kind of really get into a deck that I'm greatly enjoying and want to talk about with you guys. But I want to preference a few things first before I get into the deck. First of all, I have been experimenting with my camera setup and trying to figure out the best way to get my webcam to focus, and I discovered that you can change the focus manually. Now, in future videos, if I do this, hopefully I will have figured out a way to get a setup going where the view is looking down at a table and you can kind of see that instead of having to hold the camera or the cards up in front of the camera in front of my face. But for today, this is what we're doing. So there's going to be a point in the video where I'm going to change the focus on the camera and we'll get into the cards. But with that being said, the other thing that I wanted to mention quickly is I have also been trying to figure out if I honestly want to do deck reviews on this channel, and mostly that kind of came from me having a little bit of a complex with consumerism and trying to be more mindful about it. And I think I just sort of took it to a place that it didn't really need to be, a more extreme place. And then I started to think about how I view tarot and oracle and how they are a very big part of my practice. And although I want to be discerning and mindful of consumerism, I also feel that they are a work of art. They are an artist's interpretation of something that I view as very powerful. And I want to share that with you guys because the decks that I have and the decks that I work with, some of them have specific purposes, all of them speak to me differently, and all of them matter tremendously. So with that being said, I'm going to now get into the deck that I'm going to talk about. And actually, we're gonna jump back a second because I forgot about one other thing because I'm terrible and there's a cat hair in my eye. I have decided that if I'm going to talk about a deck on this channel, it is not going to be an unboxing and first impression. It is going to be after I've worked with the deck rather extensively or a certain amount of time, and really have gotten to know it a little bit more intimately. With that being said, those who are subscribed to my channel and are content creators, I watch unboxings like they're candy, so please don't stop those videos. Please don't think that I am judging you for them, because I love them. I just don't really know if I want them for content on my channel, because I'm trying to figure out, you know, where I want to go with this channel, the vision that I have for it. Myself as a content creator. So hopefully that makes sense. I just really wanted to put that out there first before I went into this because it's stuff that I've been mulling over. Now we will actually get into the cards. So I purchased this deck I think I worked with it for a good month and a half. This is the Illuminated Earth Oracle by Claire Mack. And this is going to be where I mess with my webcam's focus. So I'm going to hold up the deck and we're going to change the focus a little bit here. You will see some glare from my ring light. I apologize on that. But look at that. There we go. Now it's focusing. So this is the box. It's a beautiful tuck box with the thumb holes. Slides out very nicely. We're going to set down the guidebook and the cards. And I'm just going to show you guys her business card first, because I really want to support this independent artist. And then I'll start talking about what drew me into this also. Yes, I know I'm a little out of focus. Let's see if we can tinker with this focus for a little bit more, because it looks like it needs just a little more adjusting. There we go. So there you are. She can be found on Etsy and Instagram, as well as her website. And her artwork is incredible. Look at me out of focus. By the way, this is what it looks like when I don't have my glasses on in my world. Actually, it's worse because I'm like horribly blind. I have contacts in right now. So this is the guidebook. It's thin, but don't let that fool you. It is rather meaty, and she has her own system, or suits, rather, where she kind of gets into them. These are all on the tops of each card. One of these will be, and I really liked that. I thought that was an interesting touch. Again, as I said, this deck is very well balanced. Don't mind the focus. So, we can get back into the rhythm of things here. What drew me to this deck is the fact that it is, like I said, very well balanced, but it's also earthy. And it kind of gave me the Washington vibes, which is great because she is from Seattle. So here we have, by the way, I should preference these cards are not in order because I have been working with this deck. So this is relationship. And what I like about this one is it can be interpreted several different ways. You see this friction between these two rocks, and that can either be a positive friction or a negative friction. And I like that. I like that it can be interpreted that way. Destruction. So you can see this forest burning back here, and this just fire coming for it. It's, I don't know, there's a lot to take in with these cards. There really is. Decay. I like that. See, as I said, some of this artwork is very abstract, and it's kind of up to interpretation. But as you look at it, you get pulled further and further in. Concealed. Some of it's very straightforward as well, which is also great. But I just like how we have this orb down here underneath the iceberg, underneath this surface. And that's something that can mean so much. Erosion. This actually makes me think of the Southwest, like Bryce Canyon. Grief. I remember hearing a story once when I was a child about a wolf falling in love with a being that ended up being the moon in a way. I can't remember exactly how it went enough to explain it, but that's what made me think of this at first, that sorrow, that grief of not being able to be with the one you love. Also, I like that the phases are in it, because grief is phases, and they wax and wane, and trust me, they really go back and forth. So that card I really connected with. Excuse me, I'm just trying to adjust here. My foot is falling asleep. Multiverse. So we have some of these that are not of this plane. They are cosmic. Transient. Again, with the phases. There is some presence of sacred geometry in here as well. Structure. The triangle being the strongest structure. Of course, I see this and I'm like, Triforce. Nerd. Potential. I'm going to move this over a little. The growth. I just like how the grass has been painted. It's just that flowy. You can almost look at it and just see the wind pushing it, you know. Retreat. This orb of light is retreating back into the darkness. Like, it's the safe space. It's the place where we need to be. And I love that, because that is something I tend to do frequently. And I don't mean darkness necessarily as, like, bad, but just quiet. Upheaval. This one also spoke to me because I have recurring dreams about tornadoes. It's been a thing with me. Stillness. Underworld. Mystery. There are human figures in this deck, and we will see some of them as we go through it, of course, but there aren't very many. And I know that she had said in the guidebook that she had included some human figures to kind of illustrate the human connection. And I did like that touch. Although some people might look at it, go through the deck and see the human figures and find it sort of a jarring transition. But I actually admittedly did initially, but as I started to work with it more and more, I sort of made my peace with it and really kind of enjoyed the presence. Connection. If you notice here, almost everything is connected in this photo in some shape or form, except for those 2 orbs there. But you can see the birds, the mountains, this here, the circle, the reflection of the mountains with the water, anguish. I think it's really hard to portray anguish, honestly, but this definitely is one way that you look at it and you're like, oh, yeah, I can see that. It kind of makes me think of depression, mental anguish, because in a lot of ways that is some of the more deeper anguish. Resistance, pretty straightforward as you can tell. These 2 structures resisting against each other. Release. I'm hoping my ring light isn't hindering this too much. There we go. I think it all depends on where I hold things. The colors that she chose for some of these are just phenomenal too. Plants. This I love because, again, Washington vibes. I mean, here, within this picture here, you can see a lake and a mountainside with many trees. There are images in my mind and memories of Washington State and the mountains that look just like this image. Wisdom. Everything's expanding, sprouting forth. You know, as we grow through phases and kind of become something else. That's sort of what I get when I look at this image. And that's the great part about this deck, is you can just interpret it in so many different ways. Support. I just find that so sweet. Productivity. We all know bees are insanely productive. And very, very important. I'm highly allergic to them, but I still love them. Path. I love that. It makes me think of Tibet. Blocked. I like that she chose red. Like, you have the earthy tones because it's very clear that it's an obstruction from stones. But then there's that, like, red tone in there that shows, I think, sort of aggression or some sort of fiery emotion. I guess that's the way to describe it. Meander. It really pulls you in, doesn't it? Like, you keep looking further and further back, and you're just really pulled into it. I loved this one. There's a lot to be said about this card, because first of all, you have the embryo here, and then you have the umbilical cord and what looks like the placenta, but then there's the labyrinth as well, showing that we go through phases, or we reincarnate, we go through different phases of existence. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Phenomenon. See, this one also is just so up to interpretation depending on how you look at it. There's just so much to take in. I mean, we have this orb here that seems to be almost shattering, but it's in this another protective bubble. And then you have this glowing essence down here with another orb that's more solid. I don't know, something about that just is very interesting to me. Responsibility. This gives me the Yule vibes. I adore it. I love it. It's an awesome card. Moon. That was another thing that I really was really needed in this deck, is I needed the moon to be present. And sure enough, there it is. Attachment. This is the card that I have a knee-jerk discomfort to. And the reason why is because things that look like this, like beehives, and I know those are mussels, but still, like, I have this, like, deterrence when I see stuff like that. So that made me a little bit uncomfortable, but it's a very interesting card because I find that it's interesting the figures sort of almost, I don't know, I think like octopus grabbing onto things because attachment. I don't know why I think that, but that's what I think. Abundance. Microbes. I love that, how everything starts from so much. Obstacle. Again, another card that is very straightforward. Source. This one was interesting to me because you have a water transcending up to what looks more galactic, but if you see, it also looks like the female anatomy. So you see the legs and the female anatomy here, I think, which is a source of life, a life-giving source. So when I see that, I think of that. I think of divine feminine in a way, which is the life-giving source. Influence. This one, I'm still trying to figure out how I interpret it, but to me, I see the moon phases, and me being a moon baby, I see that we're influenced by the moon. You also have this like hilly mountain structure back here, water. Another thing that can be very influential is water. It is the element of emotion. So, speaking of, the elements are present in this deck, and I absolutely love it. This is one of my favorite cards, being an air sign, but also the smaller images that you see here. Again, beautiful nature scenes that just are oh, so pretty. But I just love how it has winter in it too, and I don't know, it's just a very stunning card. Reflection. Again, straightforward, but I can go deeper, you know. Vulnerability. This one was great. I loved this one because you have this plant-like figure coming out and blossoming, but then you have this figure up here that to me looks like someone almost in the fetal position, and they have like something coming at them from each side, and it seems like it depicts feeling vulnerable, feeling fragile, as this plant would be when it's first blooming. You know, I don't know, something about it. That's how I interpreted it. And again, these can be interpreted in so many different ways. Tempest. I love the lightning. Eruption. If you look closely, you can see these human figures down here trying to get away from the lava. Childhood. Very Alice. Epiphany. I like the star above the human silhouette. It's definitely like a different take on the light bulb over our head. Oops, I missed one. Renewal. Oh, this is one of my favorite cards because again, you have these nature scenes here that she did that are just so beautiful. I absolutely love it. They're just so beautiful. Water. One of my other dominant elements. Evolution. That's beautiful with the coral and the flower of life. Again, like I said, sacred geometry makes a presence in this. Harmony with the prism. All things working in balance. I love it. Combustion. Disguise. Earth, the fungus. It's pretty. have a hit or miss relationship with fungus. Sometimes I see them and I'm like, oh, those look so gross. And then other times I'm like, that's fascinating. Fertility. I thought this was wonderful because it shows fertile plants, but also fertile human life. And how you can see her spine kind of going up into what looks like a plant almost. It's just interesting. I feel like it kind of depicts our connection with the planet as well. Deluge. Resistance. Accomplishment. This one is such an interesting depiction of that word. But you can see, I mean, the thing that stuck out to me and why we have this magician figure is because the magician from the tarot is very much like the I've got this vibe. And I sort of really picked up on that when I read Kitchen Table Tarot by Melissa Sanova. So that's, I suppose, where I make the connection. But you can see, like, the sheer pride on his face, the confidence, the I've made it, I've got this, I have this, you know. I do like that. That's nice. That's empowering. Patience. We have deer down here and plant life, and then we've got these crystals. How nature tends to be a little bit more patient than us. At least that's what I take from it. Separate. Cosmos. I love this one. And balance. That's another one that I greatly enjoy. Gifts. Dreams. Another one of my favorite cards. And fire. Memory. This actually is interesting to me that there is the presence of birds and feathers, because I think of Odin's ravens and how their names are thought and memory. So I don't know, that was the connection that I made with it when I saw this image, and I was just like, wow, that is very interesting to me. And healing. I love this card. She's sewing this person back together, but she's also very bare and exposed and almost looks like she is healing herself. So it's sort of that we lift each other up, we support each other, we heal each other. So that is the Illuminated Earth Oracle by Claire Mack, and I can tell you this is probably one of my favorite decks by far when it comes to Oracle, and it's very well-rounded, it's very well-balanced. It is something that is, I think, very deep and very profound. It's definitely one of those decks that you pick up and you feel a lot from it. You can get a lot from it. So I highly recommend it. I believe she still has some on her Etsy. And yeah, you guys should totally check it out because it's a really incredible deck. That being said, sorry this video took a little bit, but I really wanted to deep dive into the imagery in the sense of just kind of slowly go through it and kind of talk about the ones that stood out to me. I know I didn't comment on every card, but some of them are straightforward, some of them are less straightforward, and I felt that I didn't need to comment on the ones that were more straightforward because, you know, but either way, I hope you guys enjoyed looking through that deck with me, and if you guys want me to do other deck reviews like this where I kind of talk about or go through the imagery or talk about the deck and how I've been working with it and what it's been like, I would love to do that. But yeah, that's it for now, and thank you for watching as always, and blessed be.